Eers and Beers, episode 31. What's on tap? Transfers, takes. A tough loss today down in Texas. But first, Adam Crowley, Happy New Year. What are we drinking?
Happy New Year, my friend. Having a pint of Guinness, and about halfway through this episode, going to have myself a little shot of moonshine to warm this baby up.
See, this is why you got to watch on YouTube, too. This is what you see. I am drinking a chilled Body Armor. 16 ounces, tropical punch, lovely flavor, because I am still trying to replenish my electrolytes and kick my headache from last night, buddy. I did a little party rocking on New Year's Eve.
Party rockers in the house tonight.
Yeah, wasn't my best. I faced like one of my best lads, Garrett, came over, and just the two of us. Like I faced a bottle of wine, then I started drinking beers, then I did a couple shots of bourbon. I was hurting this morning. I was at my own, I was at my house last night, so maybe I think I got a little too comfortable. I think it's safe to say, and I did a little party rocking. So yeah, no booze for me today. I'm just on the electrolyte replenishment, cousin.
Yeah, it's bounce back time for you. I understand that. In fact, I encourage it. What were you thinking?
I wasn't. I mean, let's be honest. I was not thinking. Did you have your pork and kraut today though? For good luck.
I absolutely did.
Do you Irish not do that?
No, the Irish will do anything to sop up their hangover, and that's what most of us were doing. I went to bed at like 9:37 yesterday, though. I missed New Year by like 2.5 hours.
Hey, good. That's the duality of man right here on the podcast. That's what we love to see. And speaking of which, before we get into transfers, takes, and Texas, real quick shout out. Like this podcast, you and I, we don't do that whole conference unity thing. Like we don't do the SEC circle jerk, especially us, right? Like we're the drunken, non-centralized time zone Big 12 school, like F the Big 12. But how about a golf clap for Okie State? Always fun to see. Always good to see Notre Dame go down. To me, it's Pitt 1, Notre Dame 2 in terms of, college teams I like to see lose. Probably Virginia Tech and Penn State shortly following there. Okay, good job, Oklahoma State. Anyone but Notre Dame.
I generally like to see the non-Texas and non-Oklahoma teams do okay in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. If it were the old Big East days, Virginia Tech, go to hell, Pitt, eat shit. But
yeah, Syracuse,
if it's not Texas and Oklahoma, I don't really care in the Big 12. In fact, I tend to root for those guys. Makes me feel a little bit better about myself.
Well, Crowley, when the Mountaineers play Big 12 football next year, when they open the season in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field, right down the road from you and I in September, they're going to have a new quarterback. I think that's topic number one today. Yeah, Jarrett Daggy announcing this afternoon, that he was going to transfer, officially posted it to his Twitter account with a message like all those guys do. You and I had discussed a little bit how we thought that this was a real possibility, but to see it happen, it makes 2022 all that more intriguing. What was already a very important year for Neil Brown and the program, I think you can add this to that as well, too. You got to find a new quarterback. It's a whole lot going on.
We've been waiting for a reason to hope in the trust the climb. This is year 3, but depending on how you want to look at it, maybe this was year 2, because year 1, you're left with the cupboard bare. Year 2 is COVID, so it's a total disaster for everyone. Hell, Baylor went 2-7 last year, just won the Big 12 conference. But West Virginia hasn't had that bam, we're here moment with Neil Brown yet. And they've had some moments. It was nice to beat Iowa State this year. It was nice to beat Virginia Tech, but you need something to get excited about. And if they were going to return just about everybody on the offensive side of the ball with the offense that's been largely putrid, I don't think you're going to get 30,000 season ticket holders to go to the games. You know what I mean? You need something different to spice the people up. And I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I think they need to poke around in the transfer market too. You would like a guy in the room who's at least started an FBS game before, but it's not Jarrett Daggy. And hey, God bless him. Good luck to you and all your future endeavors. But it was time. He knew it was time. Neil Brown knows it's time. Time to actually climb. If he came back next year, there is no climb. There's only walking on an even plane.
There's a nice plateau.
You're just walking down to 6-6 again.
It's the opposite of Morgantown is what you're telling me. It's like walking around in Lawrence, Kansas. There's no hills. There's no climb. It's just flat lands.
Yes.
Yeah. And buddy, I think this is so obvious, but listen, like the fan base right now, I think is pissed off. There's a cantankerous feel, right? We're very agitated about how this season went. I think particularly how that bowl game against Minnesota went. But it's also, I think, for the most part, a realistic fan base. And I think 90% of our fans would sign up for, if you say right now, okay, next year there's ups and downs, but we see some Goose, we see some Nico, we figure out who our quarterback is going to be. Maybe we see light at the end of that tunnel, right? We only win 4, 5, 6 games.
Whoa.
Okay, maybe not 4. We only win 5 or 6 games. 5 and 7, 6 and 6.
I think they still got to go to a bowl game. I really do.
I think our fan base would sign up for that, or at least would take that and with some optimism, as opposed to if Deggy comes back, they just run it back and we go 7-5. You know, that's not getting anybody excited for Mountaineer football.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd rather go 6-6 with Nico Marchiol or transfer whomever than go 7-5 with Jarrett Deggy and just think that Neil Brown has no idea what he's doing because he ran it back with a guy,
still not know who your quarterback in the future is.
Right. That would be a bad scenario. I know that the talk has been since the bowl game, there are problems. Does Neil Brown know there are problems? Mike Casaza wrote a really good piece about that on earsports.com. Give them a little plug. Not that they need one.
They should be plugging us.
Does West Virginia know that they've got a problem? Well, given that Jarrett Deggy's not coming back, that's not Deggy's real decision. He had a conversation with Neil Brown, and Neil said, listen, thanks for all your service. See you later. God bless. And good luck. That's what happened there. And that is encouraging to me, at least, Wes, that he knows that they need to do something different. You can't just keep rolling the same thing. The
definition of insanity thing, right?
Right. Can't happen. Now, I don't know where this goes, and I've spent the last 2 days, read a year, looking at Nico highlights, and you look around.
I've watched him throwing up on that football and throwing the touchdown pass at least 87 times. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yes. Guy looks like a leader. Guy looks like he's got balls. Let's see how he handles an FBS defense.
You know what? Him, though, being on campus next week, him enrolling in January now looms large. Like, he's got a legitimate chance to play early.
Yeah.
To be maybe the day one starter at Heinz Field, or at least to play early with, weeks, months of spring ball under his belt.
It's massive.
That's huge. That's massive for him. Yeah.
It's huge. And Winston Wright leaving, it's not my favorite because you want bodies, and he's been your leading productive.
That, to me, I think is the first real red flag transfer that we've had. I understand it from his perspective. You're going on year 4 of not having a program quarterback. You can't expect playmakers in this era. Like, listen, as much as we love or hate, player empowerment now is a real thing in college football. These guys are sitting out bowl games. These guys are transferring, especially more so now that they don't have to sit out a year after they transfer. Like, I understand it from his perspective. He's like,
I do.
I need someone who can get me the ball so I can showcase my abilities. But losing your top receiver for the last 2 years, the guy who co-led your team in touchdowns this year, that to me is the first real concerning transfer, because even Tyke Smith made sense. He's following his position coach and he's going to Georgia, one of the best 5 programs in the country. Deshaun Miller, even though it didn't work out for him, at least in theory, okay, he's going to an SEC school. He's going to Auburn.
Boy, that was a disaster.
Disaster. He didn't play, and they had a bad year. Disaster.
I think he played 5 snaps.
I mean, his stat line is like ghost town.
Yeah. To me, Wes, it's guys are
going to move.
To me,
that one hurts.
I'm starting more and more to be concerned because to me, Winston Wright, whatever. TJ Banks, whoever.
Wide receiver is the position that I worry about least. There's so many capable wide receivers now in the portal at the high school level. That's the position I worry about losing guys at least. I feel like we always have talented wide receivers, but he's been our best one for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm more worried about just the overall amount of transfers.
Yeah.
Especially given some of the peers. You look around and West Virginia's got guys leaving left and right since August, and other teams that have struggled don't have quite as much attrition as West Virginia has. So it's not a good thing. Is it a world-ending, disastrous thing? I don't think so, but I am
Agreed.
concerned. As for the wide receiver room, when we were going to do the pod before any of the Deggy stuff, before any of the Winston Wright
Good
stuff,
thing we waited till Saturday night.
no shit. I mean, I was going to come on and I was going to say they need a guy who can go up and take the ball and take a game over. And maybe Caden Prather's that guy, maybe. But they need a true, legitimate, game-breaking, game-changing wide receiver. I think that Bryce Ford Wheaton's a dude. I think Sam James can be, although I think he's got, a little bit of the yips. I think Winston Wright has been up and down, but he was their leading receiver for what that's worth. But they don't have a guy. They need a guy.
They don't have a Stedman Bailey. They don't have a Tavon Austin. They don't have a Kevin White. They don't have a Gary Jennings or David Sills even.
No, they do not. And you need one.
Yeah.
And I think if that wasn't going to be a priority, it's definitely going to be now. So that might not wind up being a terrible thing. To me, any one transfer is not concerning, given who leaves, but it's the overall amount of transfers that now starts to worry me. I know I poo-pooed it a little bit before, but it's got to stop.
It's a volume. It's a high number of people.
It's
like
big number.
It's a big number. And listen, we're WVU guys. We can't count very high. All right. It's a big number on the scale of calm, concerned, worried, panicked, right? CCWP, shall we call it? Calm, concerned, worried, panicked. Where would you, are you at concerned? Is that fair with all the transfers? Not worried, not panicked, but concerned.
Let me do my own thing here. You don't make me do what you want to do. I'll do what I want to.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about it 5.5.
I'm not trusting the climb.
Ooh.
Now, this does not mean that I am
Fire
Neil
Brown. Yeah.
Right. But I'm at the point now where I'm not trusting. I'm waiting. Give me something to trust now. I've trusted for 3 years, and as odd as it sounds, and it probably shouldn't happen just like this, but I watched the bowl game and I'm thinking they scored 6 points. What have the highlights been over the last 3 years? I'm not trusting. I'm waiting now. I'm waiting on the climb. Don't fire him. That's stupid. Fair. Don't fire him, but I'm waiting. That's where I am.
And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned the bowl game too, because I hadn't had a chance to talk with you about this. Yeah, I did a quick little reaction episode. I mean, I don't know. I rambled for like 25 minutes, but I did a reaction episode of the bowl game. I think there's a real disconnect amongst our fan base in Deggy hasn't progressed versus the offense hasn't progressed.
Yeah.
And I think most people, and especially, up until today when Deggy announced that he was leaving over the last 3 days or whatever it was since the bowl game, I think most people blame the lack of offensive progression on Jarret Deggy because he hasn't progressed. But I never really expected Jarret Deggy to progress much. He is what he is. The offense around him never progressed. They never found ways creatively to get their playmakers the ball. The offensive line, dude, I know that they're young, and I know that there's a lot of potential there. But what did they do for those 10 or 12 bowl practices? I mean, they couldn't pick up a simple blitz. They were all over the place. They're bringing the house all the time. We're not running any stick routes. We're not running any crossing stuff over the middle. When we were, Deggy wasn't seeing it because, I mean, his jersey was green and brown by the end of the first quarter. He's just putting his head down and getting clobbered all the time. Like, man, they just – when we got rid of Dana, right? I think we all knew that the program was going to be more vanilla. I think we all expected that. Like that it might not be as entertaining, right?
Yeah.
We might be more boring and vanilla, but we're going to be more buttoned up. We're going to be better in the margins. We're going to be better coached. And that hasn't happened. So we're not as entertaining. We're not as fun as we used to be to watch. We're not meeting expectations. And it's tough to watch. Like, I realize Matt Moore is get that going. I realize Matt Moore is a excellent recruiter. Our offensive line has more pedigree now than they've probably ever had before in program history, maybe since Dan Moses was winning Remington Awards. But like, dude, they had no blitz recognition against Minnesota. None. They couldn't pick up anything, and they had weeks to prepare for that. And to me, like, that's coaching. No creative ways to get the ball to your wide receivers when there's space out there for stick routes and underneath stuff. That's coaching. Like, you had no way to attack the blitz with screens or shallow routes or stick routes. Like, I'm as high as I am right now on Jordan Leslie. I'm that low on Matt Moore and Gerard Parker. Like, I don't know if there's going to be coaching changes. I don't know how you feel about this. It feels like it's late in that cycle, but it still could happen. But I'm with
We need
you.
an offensive coordinator.
I'm
like
not
a legitimate one.
I'm not trusting that aspect of the program at all right now.
No, that's the big thing. And I'm happy you brought it up because to me, you need an offensive coordinator. And frankly, it would have been nice if Kirk Soraka, if you just said, hey, buddy, why don't you stay here? And you're the OC now. Neil Brown is a CEO. He's a program builder, but you can't fully be that until you give up the play calling duties. And there's been a lot of rumor
got some
this year.
Smarter people around you.
Yeah, there's been rumor this year if he's given the play calling duties over or not, and there's question marks. I want him to bring somebody in that is the offensive coordinator because I think that's valuable. And you're right. I remember West Virginia, we really struggled against Mizzou in game number 2 of the Neil Brown era.
Oh, God, we got murdered.
Couldn't run the ball, total disaster. Well, the next week it's NC State. Now, they weren't very good, but Neil Brown dressed that offense up big time. It was almost a total facelift from one week to the next in terms of what they tried to and actually executed. We haven't seen that creativity.
You're absolutely.
Now,
that's probably the highest point that we've had for going from getting
an
smoked,
offensive standpoint.
You get smoked against Missouri, you come back, and then you crush NC State. And it was like, okay, hey, we got something going here.
Yeah, the offense.
There hasn't been any of that since.
They were smoke and mirroring it, and that's fine. But they haven't done that to this point. I mean, honestly, the best offensive performance I thought this year was the Oklahoma game when they scored 10 points because it was creative in the
14,
way that they.
I think, but yeah.
No, we lost 13-10, didn't we?
17-14, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's 13-10.
But anyways.
Hey,
you keep going. I'll look it up.
You don't want to. It was 13-10, but don't worry about it. That to me was a good performance because they did what they needed to do given their own capabilities. What was the score?
16-13. I mean, look at us. What a bunch of
like
real
I
fans.
What a
bunch
said,
of real fans we are.
Like I said, you don't want to look it up because you're wrong. Because we both wind up being wrong. But as for the offensive line, I think the inner 3 is really good. Minnesota deserves a lot of credit too because they did not blitz at all really this year, and then they blitzed a ton because they knew that West Virginia couldn't handle it.
And they're a good team. They should have been 10-2. They had 2 terrible losses to Bowling Green and Illinois. If they win both of those games, they're 10-2, and they're in a much better bowl game than the Ring Bowl. But
no doubt. I mean, and they also did things not just to their strengths, but to West Virginia's weakness in the bowl game. So
yes,
I thought they were really smart. But
and you know what? That type of well-coached, well-oiled performance, that's what I've been jonesing for under Neil Brown, man. Like we never got that under Dana. It felt like just because of his style. And it felt like that's what we were going to have under Neil Brown. I think that's where a lot of the frustration from the fan base is coming right now.
Sure. And I get that. I think as far as the offensive line's concerned, though, the tackles are more the problem. I think the interior is really good, but they're 5 young players. And I think that could be the strength of the team next year.
It needs to be.
And they need to grow together. And the defense now with Chandler Semedo
that's where I was going next. That was the good news we needed today.
Yeah.
In the face of the last, ever since Tuesday nights, ever since the bowl game, with that just putrid performance and Winston Wright announcing that he was leaving and just a lot of turmoil, and then the loss to Texas this afternoon, like that JCS news was much needed. He comes back. Now all of a sudden you're feeling great about the defense. Man, you and I were texting about this earlier. I don't know what it is. I got a feeling that Stills is going to come back too. And if that's the case, you were texting me about this. I mean, you got him, you got Messador, you got Chandler Semedo. Like you've got some real potential there to have. I think
you're missing your safeties.
Defense.
I think
you are missing your safeties for sure.
That's it.
Sean Mahone's going to be a big absence.
And a die.
Is going to be a big loss.
But that's it. I think that's all you lose.
If you're good in your front, man, if your front is talented, like you can mask a lot of inefficiencies in the secondary.
I mean, I think that's been the story of West Virginia's defense under Neil Brown. I mean, they've had good players at just about every level these 3 years, but to me, the strength has been up front, and it was that way when they were 5-7 and they almost beat Baylor on Halloween. That defensive front was just slapping.
Yeah.
They were the best defense in the country statistically last year. And I think mostly you had Tyke Smith too and some other guys, but I thought that was the defensive front. And I think that if Dante Stills comes back, then next year you have the opportunity. You're going to have about 9 starters coming back and have to go back and count. I mean, you have a chance to be very, very good. West Virginia played their worst defense of the season, I thought, at times as the season wore on, but they were decimated by injuries. You add a little bit more depth, and they are. This defense could be really good next year, and I'm not going to sit here on January 1st and say that in 9 months they're going to beat Pitt. I'm not making that guarantee 9 months in advance. That's a gestation period for a human child. But I will say, if the defense comes back with Dante Stills and Chandler Samito, and at least one of those two is coming back, they're going to be in a position to be not terrible as a team next year. Like, if the defense returns all these guys, you're looking at,
and your offensive line takes a step forward.
Yes.
That feels like that gives you a really high floor. Like, your ceiling might not be that high without the quarterback, but your floor is pretty high.
That's a good way of putting it. I did want to bring this up earlier whenever you were talking about Jarret Doege, how you didn't think that he was going to take a step forward this year, and you were prescient in that because, hell, he didn't. But what bothered me is how much he was talked up by the coaching staff this offseason. He's moving in the pocket. He's watched Tom Brady film. This guy, he's really doing a good job at all the things that we ask. He's fluid. He can make throws on the run. Huh?
Doesn't it remind you how the Steelers did all that hyping of Mason Rudolph? Oh, we had a first-round grade on it. Like, why? All you're doing is setting unrealistic expectations.
They must have believed it. Like that, and that's the scary part to me, because you wouldn't want to set up a college athlete like that to fail. You just wouldn't.
Dude, you and I were laughing at this over the summer. Pro Football Focus wrote an article. Could Jarret Doege be the next Joe Burrow, who comes out of nowhere and lights up college football? What?
You know what it is with that, right?
The same quarterback here.
Like, the reason that happened upon further review is because, Jarret Doege, when he's not pressured,
no, he's
fine.
Okay. Yeah, he's
when everything's perfect, and that's the problem. When everything goes according to plan, Jarret Doege's fine. But it doesn't work that way. And that's the other thing. You were right about the offensive line. They did not have a good bowl game, obviously, but they weren't as terrible as the final statistics would indicate. Jarret Doege needs to move off his spot once in a while. And I realize
that's his biggest weakness. Yeah, he was ducking his head after the first 2 drives. And now we did him no favors, right? No. This is my whole Doege progressing versus the offense progressing. Why do you come out the first 2 series of the game doing nothing but throw? Why? Then all of a sudden, Doege gets hit.
Success running too.
Like,
they were having early success running the ball. What are we doing here? Jeez.
I don't think they ran the ball in their first 2 drives. What was the point of that? And Doege's confidence was already shattered. His jersey was already green and brown because he had been hit. And then after that
was not the field to be wearing white on, by the way.
It was absolutely was not. We play on a real diamond porter, but.
It's like wearing a white swimsuit on your first period for gym class.
That to me, dude, that's coaching malpractice, because that Doege is that type of quarterback. If he doesn't start well, if he gets hit early, he's checked out.
And what's frustrating is
he ducks his head. He stares down his first read, and if it's not there, he ducks his head and he absorbs the sack and doesn't even try and get out of the pocket or throw the ball away. He's not mobile.
I think.
But other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Right. I honestly think the best thing about the Neil Brown offenses has been their scripted drives have been excellent.
First half and second half have been outstanding.
Some of the best what they wanted to do. I understand it, because Minnesota's really good at stopping the run. And you had to think, okay, we've got speed, they've got girth. Let's do this thing. Unfortunately for me, I don't have girth and I have speed. You have to
built
understand.
For long distances.
Yeah. Ask my wife. She would disagree. I get it. But when you see that you start to have success on the ground, which they were, and I thought Tony Mathis was the lone bright spot on the offense in this game, then stick with that. Yeah. And they didn't. And that was discouraging. My other bright spot was the kid from Penn State, the Lance Dixon connection, baby. I think he's going to be a dude. He is athletic. He attacked the gap, guessed wrong a couple of times, but he's young. I think he's got a couple of 3 years left. So I'm encouraged by that. Those are my main bowl takeaways, though, as we as we wrap up the bowl section. I'm going to grab another beer. It's right here. Just you talk. I mean, get a beer.
And this podcast is brought to you by Cold Beers and the Mountaineers. Bowl game reaction. Look at this guy. I mean, he's got his own fridge right by the.
Look at this thing.
I was gonna say, what is that? Oh, you're drinking a Penn Brewery. I thought that silver thing was the top on your beer. I mean, what are you doing here?
Look at this. It's from Brookstone.
It's from Brookstone, he says.
We need the kind of innovation that Brookstone provides for our offense.
You know what? We'll just start plugging all these other companies and beer breweries and all these other companies and breweries and earsports.com until somebody sponsors us. How about that? Toast. Yeah, I'm with you on those observations. I also too. Part of me thinks it is hilarious. We all do the whole. We don't care about the bowl game. We don't care about the bowl game until you have a performance like we had on Tuesday night, and then everyone freaks out.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, when West Virginia forced the fumble, I think on the second red zone possession for Minnesota, did you jump up and fist pump? Because I jumped up and fist pump.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I care. I mean,
defense kept us in that game a lot longer than we should have been.
Listen, I don't care. I don't care when we play.
Yeah,
I don't care who we play. I'm jacked up on Mountain Dew, Skip. You were texting me at like 7 a.m. saying it doesn't feel like game day yet because the game's at 10:15
because the game's 13 hours from now.
And we're both excited because we waited a month to watch ball and you got to wait 9 months after. Like these games, you know, some of the players, they're going to opt out, blah, blah. Sure. These games matter to the people they matter to.
We got a barn burning Rose Bowl going on right now. Everyone's watching it. Everyone was watching Oklahoma State and Notre Dame. There was a lot of reaction in that Pitt Michigan State game. Like, yeah, the whole people don't care about these bowl games is BS because college football fans are like us. They're psychos. They want to just watch their team play anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter when. I think you and I
said
about the logo.
No, Gundy said,
he was making fun of the Notre Dame logo thing. Yeah.
Gundy said this was the biggest win in program history. So
might be
but that's the thing. Like these games, they matter. And I think there's a difference between 6-7 and 7-6. It's one game, but it matters.
Absolutely.
Neil Brown would be over 500 if they won that game. He ain't because they lost.
We are, in the last 5 years. So that includes the last 2 years of Dana with Will Grier, where we were as high as number 6 or 7 in the country at one point that season. 27-27 against FBS schools. Like you take out James Madison, you take out Long Island. Yeah. 27-27 over the last 5 years. Like we got to get it going.
I don't think it needs to be a rebuild anymore. I think in today's day and age, you can fix it and fix it fast.
Agreed.
If you've got pieces already, and I think that they have some pieces, particularly on the defensive side and offensive line, and you've got the transfer portal, and you've got an opportunity to turn it around quick. Baylor was 2-7 last year. They win the Big 12 this year. Look at Iowa State in basketball. Yeah. They won 2 games last year. They took Baylor to the wire in basketball.
Top
today.
10 team.
You can do it. You just need to push the right buttons. And I think they got 10 spots left that they can fill via transfer. Go do it. Go hit that portal. Make those guys impact players, and you can win. They could have won 8 games this year, and they weren't a good team. They weren't bad, but they could have won 8 games this year. Like they almost had Oklahoma. They almost had Texas Tech. They could have had Maryland. I mean, they could have won 8 games. They could have won 9 games this year if everything went right. So hit on the portal. You can turn this thing around. Let's go. But it's time because I'm sick and tired of having to hear about how good Pitt is and how bad West Virginia sucks. And, to the victor go the spoils, but let's fucking go. Come on, get it together. It's time. Let's go. Come on.
Come on. You got 9 months to figure your shit out.
Let's go. 9 months. Got to win that game. Got to win that game. I know that they're not going to be favored, but you got to win that game. I don't care. Like Neil Brown could start like this year. He starts 2-1, right? And it's you go to Oklahoma. Let's see what happens. Take your swings. Fine. You start 2-1 this year, and you beat Virginia Tech, and you beat
Pitt. Well, Virginia Tech's the 4th game of the year, isn't it? Isn't it Pitt? I think it's Pitt, Towson, Kansas, then Virginia Tech.
So let's say you start 3-1, and you lose to Pitt.
That could be honestly, that's probably what I would put my money on right now, as much as it pains me to say.
they're going to at least start 2-2. I mean, the way that the schedule sets up, like, because you're not going to lose to Towson, you're not going to lose to Kansas, because the Kansas game's in Morgantown, so you're at least starting 2-2.
Virginia Tech should be bad off next year.
Of course they should, but Lane Stadium, not an easy place to play.
Fair point.
West
And
Virginia
it's
hasn't
a rivalry game.
West Virginia hasn't won games on the road. Under Neil Brown, that's another problem.
At some point, maybe like closer to the spring game when there's been some transfers announced and, you know, all this stuff shakes out and settles a little bit. We'll have to do the vintage, go through the whole scheduling. All right, week 1 against Pitt. Do you have a win? Do you have a loss? All right, week 2. And then what's your record at the end of the year?
Listen, I'm already doing it.
8-4.
They better be something like that. But you don't know who the quarterback is, so it's kind of a big deal.
I would like to be ranked at some point. It's been so long since we've been ranked. Jesus.
Even with Dana, when they would finish poorly in a lot of those seasons, they'd be ranked at some point. Like West Virginia was ranked under Dana more times than not.
Yeah.
More years than not, I should say. That matters. Like, it matters to feel like you're in it.
Absolutely.
And they haven't been ranked at all under Neil Brown.
Nope. Not yet. It's been 3 long years and we're going on a 4th. If we can't figure out this dang quarterback situation. All right, Crowman, you want to talk a little hoops before we get out of here?
Chip.
Listen, that's a tough one today. I liked the inspired start. You know, no Taz, no Gabe, no Kobe. You're down your best player and your leading scorer. You're down probably your best big man as well too, in Gabe.
Your energy guy.
They did well to hang in there for the first 10 minutes, and they were standing toe-to-toe with Texas. But that's the one thing that I take from this, that it doesn't matter the absences. Like, dude, this team they're good for a 6, 7, 8 minute just scoring drought every single game. And they had a stretch of 6.5, 7 minutes in that to end that first half where they only had 2 points. In the last 10.5 minutes of the first half, Adam, they made 2 field goals. 1, 2, buckle my shoe in 10.5 minutes. They scored 6 points. 2 of them were at the free throw line, 2 field goals. The game was over after that. If you don't have that stretch there, you probably at least hang with Texas till the end. You probably still lose the game, but maybe you end up losing by 7 or 8, and it's, you know, a close game at the 4-minute mark at the last TV timeout. That to me is concerning, is the scoring droughts and the turnovers. It doesn't matter who's out there. So many of those turnovers were unforced. I know Chris Beard's teams always play really good defense. That's one of their calling cards. But I'm not upset about the result today, but those are still the things. Like, Jalen Bridges showed some 18 points today, and I think he was like 7 for 11 from the field. There were some encouraging signs there, but these scoring droughts, these 5, 6, 7, 8 minute scoring droughts have to stop, and they've got to stop being so sloppy with the rock, or else they're going to really struggle to win conference games.
Yes, but Taz Sherman not being in the lineup.
No, it changes everything.
It does, because
everything runs through him.
Even if you are going to have a scoring slump, you know who's going to get you out of it. And I think today they're looking around who's going to get you out of it. It's going to be hard to be Sean McNeil whenever he's the guy. Like, they know he's the guy. And I thought he did fair enough when the other team knew he was the guy. I was really encouraged by Jalen Bridges. Of course, they need to take care of the basketball better, but they weren't supposed to win this game regardless. They were going to be underdogs regardless. I'm not upset about the result. I'm encouraged by Bridges. Throw it away. Move on. They're going to guard. Today was tough. You know, they give up 75 points, but you don't have, I think your best on-ball defender is Kedrian Johnson, but I think your best overall energy guy, deflection guy, loose ball guy is, of course, what the frick's his name? Gabe Osaboy, and I took the shot. I kept wanting
that
to say
moonshine shot in that second beer's getting you, buddy.
I kept wanting to say Damone Kerrigan, but look, they speaking of Kerrigan, I mean, I thought they affected shots at the rim. I thought that they did.
Yeah, they were great. They were great at the rim today.
And that's what Bob attempted to address in the transfer portal, and I thought did. The next game's a big one. You got to win it. You got to even your record at 1-1.
K-State next weekend, right?
Yeah, it's a game you got to win.
That's a winnable game for sure.
Of course it is. And you and I talked. I think I think our expectation for this team and the goal for this team is reasonable, and that's 500 in the conference, and hopefully they can make the NCAA tournament.
If they're 500 in the conference, I don't think we'll be sweating on. If you're 500 in the conference and you win at least one game in the Big 12 tournament, you win your first round game, I think you're not sweating on Selection Sunday.
And if they have Taz Sherman, who knows how? And it's like hard to.
It's hard to do like, oh, you lost by 15 and Taz averages 20. So if Taz would have played, you would have won the game. But that's not exactly that easy.
No, who knows? I mean, the entirety of the game is different.
Yeah.
Every single thing that happens in the game is different if he's out there. So who knows?
Who knows?
But you got to win the next one.
He wasn't.
You can't start 0-2.
And you know what? I think this is probably a good way to wrap this up too. Like, we were all really disappointed when what was it, earlier this week, Wednesday, maybe, I think, when the news came out that the TCU game on Monday was going to be postponed. Like, we just want to watch our team play because, again, we're West Virginia fans. We're psychos. We want to watch our teams play anytime, anywhere. And you never want to have to take an extra trip to Texas, right? Like, when you go there, you like to be able to knock out 2 games at once. It's easier on the guys in terms of travel. Now you're going to have to go back at some point. But now it's probably a great thing for the program, honestly, because you're not going to win any conference games without Taz. You're just not going to do it. And like, you're the lowest scoring team. You're the lowest scoring team in the Big 12 without your leading scorer. You can't afford to waste opportunities to win conference games this season. And with no Taz, no Gabe on Monday night, you're probably just wasting another opportunity. So I think this, in hindsight, worked out well. If
Jalen Bridges can play similarly to the way he played tonight.
Braids Bridges, baby. Let's go. I want to see him be even more aggressive. He was great, but like, he's still got another level, man. I know he does.
Catch and shoot, take the ball to the rack. He did both those things tonight. If this is the guy that they can see moving forward, you add now all of a sudden a third scorer to a team that we know guards, and it wasn't perfect today, but a team that does guard. I feel a lot better about that 500 in conference play. So it's a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a big deal to get him growing.
Buddy, good stuff. This was fun. We had a lot to talk about today. I like this.
When is the next game?
It's Saturday, I believe, against K-State.
I mean, Christ. It's like football season. Gotta wait a whole damn week, and you're waiting for Kansas State. And then you just don't know.
At home on Saturday. Yeah, you got to have that one.
You do. And I would expect them to get it. But the question is, when did Taz technically get into protocol?
Right.
When did Gabe get into protocol? They'll be okay without Kobe Johnson, even though he's their biggest minutes freshman guy.
Yeah, Malik played his best game of the season today, I thought.
He did. But let me tell you something.
That was encouraging, too.
Let me tell you something. The way he dribbled into the lane on a turnover in the first half, that's going to work at Old Dominion. That's going to work at a lower level.
Yeah.
That shiz ain't going to work here.
No.
And he's going to learn, but
it was not pretty.
He's dribbled himself into trouble a little bit too much for my liking at times.
He's, to use like a hockey analogy, he's like the guy that stick handles himself into danger.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Like it's the old adage, right? Like some hockey players, when they're stick handling, they look like they're trying to chop a rattlesnake to death. Like,
yes, that's
whatever the basketball equivalent of that is what he looks like when he tries to attack in the lane. Like, he looks like he's trying to bounce someone's head off the pavement or something. I don't know.
FYI, next 2 at home against Kansas State,
and
the
Okie
worst
State,
team in the
right?
conference. And Okie State is. Okie State, that all the wind came out of their sails with the punishment that was thrown at them at the beginning of the season. So got to have them both. Got to start 2-1. Let's go. Get it done.
Get it done. And you know where to find us. We'll be back sometime, I would imagine, maybe next weekend post K-State, or maybe we wait till Tuesday or Wednesday and get 2 basketball games in there. But you know where to find us for the reaction. Unless something crazy happens this week in football, then we might have to do it, which is if Dante Stills announces he's coming back this week, we're going to do an emergency pod, and it's just going to be me and Crowley sitting here with boners for 5 minutes. Whatever.
My prediction is there's going to be at least one coach that's gone this week. At least one. That's just what happens.
In a weird
doesn't necessarily
way,
mean it's anything bad, but
you and I work in an industry too where there's a lot of job turnover. Like, working in sports broadcasting, working in radio, there's a lot of job turnover. There's high performance standards, all this stuff. I am of the camp of I never root for people to lose their jobs. I don't like to see people lose their job, unless it's like an Art Briles situation. Then I want that guy to lose his job. But you can't maintain status quo after a 6-6 season where you lose the bowl game 6-7. There haven't been many drastic changes ever since Vic, left the program and that whole situation went down with Vic Koenig.
Okay too.
Turned out real well. Jordan Leslie, baby. There haven't been too many significant changes to the coaching staff, unless it was like a die going to Georgia. You got to change something. You can't do the definition of insanity thing.
No, I'm with you. And it's not like Matt Moore hasn't had success other places either, because he has. But you got the right dudes now. There's no question you got guys.
Got to coach them up.
They need to be taking a step forward. And you know what the thing is, not to prolong the podcast, but I thought, Wes, that they did take steps forward during the second half of the year.
I agree with you on that.
And then the Minnesota game happens, and you're left scratching. Excuse me, your head again. That was a burp because I'm drinking, because it's a beer drinking podcast.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you enjoyed yourselves last night. And yeah, we'll be back again soon. Let's go. You like that? We're always so good at wrapping these things up. Let's go, Mountaineers.
I forgot Gabe Osaboyan's name.
Yeah, whoosh, Crowley. That's because you're whooshing. Last night I was whooshed. Whoosh. Bottle of wine to the face with the missus at dinner. Whoosh. Then beers and bourbon shots. Whoosh.
Jesus Christ. That just makes me sick thinking about. Let's go Mountaineers.
Let's go drink some beers.